Good morning. How is everybody? Great? Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. Full of beauty and bounty and bliss. So, we're sowing seeds of community, and I took some divine next steps myself and went to visit some friends in Arizona for some renewal and retreat and refreshment. And we've got a retreat coming up this coming weekend here. It's going to be at my house, and Sherry, who's our outreach practitioner, is coming Friday and Saturday. So we're already started, already started on that renewal and that reinvigoration that spring is here. So I know that there is that refreshment and that renewal. And as I was driving, it was almost about 1,000 miles. But the way, usually I'm Mario Andretti. Mario and I are like this sometimes, flying low to the ground. I saw a bumper sticker and it said, "Stop global whining." Yeah? Isn't that great? And we can all be that great, and to know that we have that contentment and connectivity, that connection, the contentment and that connection within myself, with the divine, and also with others. So to have that contentment and to be in that place where there's this soft place to land in community. So we have this soft place that we can land in our heart. And Dr. Ernest Holmes writes on the first page of the textbook, I love it, so one mind. It is so one mind. This is what Bruce just read us. I love this. The seed of freedom must be planted in our innermost being. It is already, but we must make that great discovery for ourselves. So I discovered that, yes, we can stop global whining. And the trip that I just had was more than just a shelf help place. You know those books you buy and you got a whole office full of books, and it's shelf help. Or not self-help, but it's shelf help because it sits on the shelf. What we have here is inspired action. We have inspired action that comes from our innermost self, that inner voice, and knowing that the inner voice, with that inner voice, we are at choice. So to rely on the inner voice and to have that be the choice, and to have that place come from our innermost being, because we already are free. We're already in that free zone, that zone of freedom, because we are at choice. And a friend of mine, Judge George Francis, who I grew up with, he was 2 doors down, and usually I would crawl on the floor with him when my mom would pick me up and take me 2 doors down and say, here George, take Darlene. She's, had enough playtime. Let's have her play with you, and crawl on the floor. So here's the Superior Court judge that lived 2 doors down, and he would usually save my life. And what I knew about him is that in his pocket, he carried the 10 most the ultimate things, the 10 most ultimate things for him. And I think it's out of print now. It's a pamphlet that's the ultimate secret. So we would have these conversations when I was, 3 years old and up, and there was that freedom that our soul craves that he had already mastered. So he not only mastered it by saving my life a few times, but he recognized that we really are free, and he showed that in his life's work. He showed that in his family that would come visit. And so he was a dear and special neighbor, and I feel that he really succeeded in being curious. And he wasn't Curious George, but he was Judge George. So sometimes we called him Judge, sometimes we called him George. So these 10 points originate from the ultimate secret. So here's the list. It says we can have a tendency to think and act spontaneously rather than on fears based on past experiences. So we can be more spontaneous, like Ernest says, and he invites us to be curious about that and to have that voice, the inner voice, be our choice. So we listen even closer to that. And number 2, an unmistakable ability to enjoy each moment. We already have this ability. It's innate, it's inherent, it's our innermost place. We can also have a loss. Now, sometimes we think of loss as something that's really good. We can also have a loss, or to just set aside and let fall away from us. So here's the next few points, is we're going to have a loss of those things that no longer serve us. like the bumper sticker, Stop Global Whining. We can have a loss of interest in judging other people. We can have a loss of interest in interpreting the actions of others. Instead, we can listen to our inner voice, make a choice, and have that connection, that absolute connection, where we have inspired action. So from that contented connection, we have inspired action. So that's why I hopped in my car and went away for a couple days so I could have some renewal and rejuvenation, and it was just great to love on people. And so I could just have a loss of interest in interpreting the actions of others. Instead, I can take inspired action myself. A loss of interest in conflict. A loss of, we might go see a romantic comedy instead of a drama. You know? We can have the loss of the ability to worry. Whatever fear, doubt, and worry that may be in our lives, we can really lose that. We can lose that and lose some of that. Number 7, we can have frequent, overwhelming episodes of appreciation. Yes. Yes, to have that appreciation that is from that contentment, from that connectivity. And we can have contented feelings of connectedness with others, with nature, with our divine nature that's always there, ever available in that innermost place. We can have frequent attacks of smiling. We can have an increased, number 10, an increased susceptibility to love, extended by others, as well as that uncontrollable urge to extend it, to extend our love, to extend our heart, to come from that inner voice and to make that best choice, to love, and to make those choices out of love instead of that fear, doubt, or worry. So I trust that these urges are already the divine urges, and that compulsion or that divine impulse is within us. And I trust that these are helpful and that we can continue to walk in peace. And Dr. Peggy Bassett, who I studied with in the 80s, and she was a mentor of mine, she talked about so many of us are so busy making a living that sometimes we forget to have a life. So we can look at areas where we're just looking at whatever our living is and remember to have a life. And there's 4 stages of development in that spiritual pathway of having a life. And the first place I saw this was with Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith, and he talked about how much of our culture has things happening to it, or something's happening to me. I'm at effect of something that's happening to me. And then we begin to use some of these tools for transformation, and then we can have mastery. Here in our spiritual community, we may call it manifesting or demonstrating or having those results and noticing where our awarenesses show up in physical form, in our health, in our wealth, in our relationships, and our inner peace. We begin to have even more mastery. And so we go from being at effect of something, doing something to us. In essence, stepping up and stepping forward in that contentment, in that contented connection, and then beginning to have even more mastery in manifesting all of the good stuff, the juju stuff. And then we begin to even be more of an instrument. We begin to be even more of that music in harmony. And Bruce was telling me earlier that he had heard the prayer for peace of St. Francis of Assisi. He had heard that quite a few days, quite a few hours in a row. So, and it's interesting how we were in sync on the very first page of how can you ignore the very top priority that would be in paragraph 2 of the Science of Mind textbook. And again, the Science of Mind is a guide for spiritual living. And so if I wanted you to take this home, the peace prayer, that we can extend, and actually extend, being instrument, having this divine connection, this contented connectivity, this connection, being an instrument for this, being the portal, the conduit through which the divine energy flows. And we can have even more faith and hope and light and joy. And we can put ourselves forward as this instrument to be an understanding presence and to look at that which is beneficial rather than detrimental in our lives. Am I coming from love? Or am I coming from fear? Am I being beneficial, or is there something that's being detrimental in my life? And he encourages us to be love and to not be so much seeking love from like it would be to me or even by me, but it would be being an instrument of this love and extending this love. So in the middle paragraph it says, "O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love." And so taking that to heart, as far as sowing these seeds of the freedom of choice, we are at choice to love and to give. So, for it is in giving that we receive. It's in giving that we receive. And it's a beautiful day. It really is. And so we are that instrument. And we move as that. So we go from doing something to me, then we're doing something to it. We're, in essence, mastering our thoughts, changing our thinking, transforming whatever those material kinds of things are that show up in the form or the level of our experience. And then we're an instrument. And, we move in and out of these at all different times. We may be watching television and we may be moving in and out of different levels of consciousness. And so what we're doing today is remembering to have that freedom of choice, to have it be moving through us as an instrument and as us, as that extension of love, as that extension of freedom. And it was my grandmother Hazel who lived to be about 102, and she lived up in San Luis Obispo, California. She's the one who thought chocolate was one of the 4 food groups. And Hazel was this little tiny size 4 thing, and she homesteaded, and I can just so much admiration for her and just so much love. And I would oftentimes go to her house on the weekends growing up, and when we would travel, I'd usually be her roommate, and just had the greatest time. And Hazel, when she was getting ready, my granddad had passed, and she was getting ready to go to a nursing home. And they were getting ready to show her her place, and she was almost blind at the time. And so the aide began to show her the place, and the aide said that, I just want to, and it was a beautiful place, I just want to show you your room. And she didn't really care how much what it looked like. If she did have a sliding glass area she could look out onto a patio. And it was just this patience with which she approached things, because she was one of my greatest examples for being an instrument of extending love. And so when the aide presented the room to her, before she had even walked into the room, she says, "I just love it. I love it." And it was just like she was receiving a puppy, 102 years old, receiving a puppy. Couldn't see it, but she loved it. And the aide says, "Well, Mrs. Dunning, you haven't seen the room. Just wait. You haven't seen it." And she says, "I already know it. It doesn't have anything to do with my even seeing it. Happiness is something that I decide. I decide how I don't care how the furniture is going to be arranged. I decide how I'm going to arrange it in my mind. I decide it doesn't matter. It doesn't depend on how that furniture is arranged. It doesn't matter how small it is or how big it is or what shape or size or it just, as she was there, she says, "I've already decided that I love it." She was already extending her love as she moved into that next stage. And she says that each day, every day is a gift. And I'll focus on this new day. I'll focus on that. I'll arrange my mind to focus on that. And all of those kind and loving things that I've done throughout my life, I've stored away for times like these. And it's just for this time in my life. I already have that in store. And that was the way that she approached her life, and it was just incredible, this little spark plug of a just little tiny thing. And it reminds me of the spring flowers. I was coming home to a lot of wildflowers in so many different colors because Hazel could see these colors, and even though she was blind. She could see the colors that were available in her friends, the colorfulness that was available in this room that she was moving into, the color from which her life had given her with raising 2 boys and being part of our kind of just a plain rap, generic type of family, and growing up with having family parties and just having all kinds of love all around. And I think that spring is Mother Nature's way of loving us, and that it says, rise and shine. Rise and shine. I've already made up my mind that I'm going to extend love. The dirt thaws, and I noticed in walking out that the mud was a little bit less today, and that there's things that are poking and peeking out of the ground and coming out of its winter slumber. And that things are, there's that tenderness that shows of our hearts, and there's all the bulbs that we've planted and given tender, loving care, and there's been a lot of things that have just exploded early, and they just push up through that soil, and there's that animation, that creativity that's available. And so all of a sudden, this whole world, as I was driving back, it's in the throes of spring. And it gave me such joy. It was like I was driving up 25, and there was just so much joy, and there's the Elephant Butte Lake along the right-hand side, and there's those things that are rising, and there was some fog as I was going down that was rising up off the lake, and I just think the spring is saying, rise and shine. It's like the whole world is this season that has this boundless, vibrant energy, and that it's limitless, it's vibrant, it's filled with possibility, it's filled with awe, and we can spring forward. We can have that liveliness in our step. We can throw open the windows and have some fresh air, refreshment, and renewal. We can shake a leg. We can get a move on. We can get a groove on. I did a little dancing and enjoyed some music. Get a little groove on. And it's definitely when things get shaken up, because we've thrown open the windows. We've got some fresh air. We're exchanging those flannel sheets for those nice, cotton ones and light. And we rid the house really of that accumulated dust and must. And we must eliminate that dust and must that's in our life and rearrange our mind. Sometimes we move things around, if it's like leaving our winter den. And if things have gotten a little mushy too, I have a friend who was working out the other day, and he says, my trainer told me that I need to be more like an apple than applesauce. And so he set his intent, and now he's working out. He's like posting his results on Facebook, and he says, I just don't get disappointed anymore when people don't poke me on Facebook. But he's prepared. He's prepared to be more of an apple than an applesauce. And so there's that coming out of that, whatever that deep, dark, long, whatever that winter sleep is, and to wake up. And it could be that we walk a little bit more briskly. It could be that we have a bit more joy in our step. We may go to the park. We may liven up our environment. We have, when we've been having like soups and stews, we may lighten that up with some salads, and our garden's starting again, and there's that great anticipation. We may lighten our mental load. We may lighten our emotional load. We may lighten up and have our spiritual nature lead us, and to be pulled by that divine nature, or by the contentment that we are connected to already. That contented connection. So we throw open those windows. We dust and polish maybe some of the leaves of our indoor plants. We move some things around, and we spend some more time outside. We lighten up and ease up on ourselves. Oh, wouldn't that be great? We ease up. We ease up on ourselves, let ourselves off the hook a little bit. And we can release that fear, doubt, and those worries that have been holding us back. And to know that there's not something that's doing something to us, but in essence we're moving through it and being an instrument of it, the thing itself, and being an instrument as it of love, of peace, of joy. And that's some of the best choices, to listen to the inner voice and to come from the inner voice and make the best choice from the place of that contentment, the connection, the contented connectedness with the divine, with nature, within ourselves, and we begin to see that even more in others. So being lightened on every level, to be a little bit more cheerful and feel as though we can fly. We can fly over the sun. We can fly over that brand new moon that's coming out. We can be eager to greet the day and whatever awaits us with this new anticipation of this new great day, this springing forward of our life. And to have a bit more spring in our step. Are you ready? Yes. Yeah. We can tell ourselves that we're ready and set, and we can go. Ready, set, go. And we can know that we are loved, that we are cherished. And there is that spring in our step that is so near and dear to ourselves. And what I want to do is just be in this inner voice for just some moments. To be in this, be this inner voice, be with this inner voice, and make the best choice from that place of contentment, from that place of connection, from that place of the spring flowers that are in our heart. So I invite us to just turn within for a moment of inner celebration and to realize that we are experiencing the very best day ever. And I know that it is coming from this place of the inner voice and making the best choice. The highest and best is unfolding right here and right now. And there is this very present and walking in the sense of wholeness and well-being and being in this place of viability, wellness, wholeness, contentment. And in this connection, knowing that there is the divine connection and contentment, and it is everywhere. It is this field, this unified field of love, this unified field of peace. And it is this peacefulness of which our instrument is attuned. And it is attuned to that which is filled with the light and the love. And knowing that there is this pathway in which the wholeness and the wellness of this pathway in which we're walking is on holy ground with the wholeness and the wellness, and traveling so smoothly and swiftly, and realizing that all of the answers are ever at hand, and knowing that there is a divine pattern which is unfolding in this freedom of choice. So knowing that this choice is coming out of this inner voice, and that there is the freedom to be and being set free in the fulfillment of this divine nature. So I'm grateful knowing that it is the divine nature which is unfolding in lightness, in health, in opulence, and knowing that there is this freedom and movement in this connection with the divine, and it shows up within myself. It shows up within others with a deep sense of appreciation, love, and light. And I release this word into the action of the law, knowing that it lovingly carries it forward, and that there is this place of the divine which is already in store, and so much more. And so be it, and so it is. And I invite us to join in a few moments of stillness as the practitioners rise.